guys, Jim here again to bring you guys an MMA Fight Prediction video. This time I'm covering the UFC 175's main event that features the Middleweight Championship on the line when the reigning and defending UFC Middleweight Champion, the All-American Chris Weidman, goes toe-to-toe with the former UFC Light Heavyweight Champion and #1 contender, Lyoto The Dragon Machida. And what is to be the toughest matchup in Chris Weidman's career by far. And I'm going to give you guys a backstory to this fight, which will cover all the elements that led up to the conception of this fight, as well as a full fight breakdown of the two fighters and who I've ultimately winning and walking out with the UFC Middleweight Championship around their waist when this fight is all said and done. So without further ado, let's get this thing started right about now. Weidman, Machida. Here we go. Now 2013 produced a lot of great fights, a lot of wars, knockouts, submissions, what have you. It was a great year of fights. And for resurgences like Uriah Faber, Robbie Lawler, as well as breakout stars like Travis Brown. But above all of that, there was one man that was the heir apparent fighter of the year in 2013, and his name is Chris Weidman, because he went in this year at UFC 162 against Anderson Silva, got into that cage, and knocked his ass out in the second round, and took the UFC Middleweight Championship. And I know a lot of you guys wanted to call that a fluke. And this, that, and the other. Anderson made mistakes. Whoop-de-doo, jabronis, because at the end of the day, you know, one man's mistake is another man's opportunity to capitalize and achieve greatness. And that's exactly what happened at UFC 162. Anderson did not respect Weidman's punching power and paid for it with his consciousness after he got done with the bobbing and the weaving and all that garbage that he does, and got clocked right on the kisser. His eyes went back, and Chris followed it up with the ground and pound, baby, and became the champion. End of story. And plus, in the first round, he took him down and he dominated him there too. He won the first round clearly, and he was basically finished it up nicely in the second by not falling for his bullshit and knocking his ass clean out. But at the end of the day, with Anderson Silva having accomplished what he's accomplished, he was given his rematch against Chris Weidman at UFC 168, where Anderson had the opportunity at redemption and prove the first time was a fluke, and Chris had the chance to set the record straight and show the world that what happened last time was no fluke, and he was going to beat Anderson Silva with authority and prove once and for all that he is the better fighter. Because all that fight was about, people, was leaving no doubt. However, that fight would end a little bit shocking though, mind you. I mean, first round, Chris was able to take him down, Silva was able to get back up. Silva tried to get that Muay Thai clinch in, but not today, buddy. Weidman clocked him again, and he went down. His eyes rolled back, and Chris was in his guard, laying in the ground and pound. Silva was defending, and he pretty much dominated that round. Clear cut, 10-8, baby. Was the beginning of the end for Anderson Silva, because once Chris corrected the mistake that he made in the first fight by checking Silva's leg kicks, It was all she wrote, babe, because he blocked them by putting knee to shin. And when Anderson threw that first leg kick, Chris checked it, and that sauteed it. And when he basically went for a kick again and Chris checked it for the second time, that thing was filleted out of here. All the way. You can literally see in the replay the bone breaking away from the flesh. And it was brutal. As a result, the fight was stopped by TKO and injury. And not only did Chris retain his championship, but he damn near almost ended Anderson Silva's career. But regardless, he is still the middleweight champion, and that's all there is to it. Now, he was set to go against Vitor Belfort in May, but that's not going to happen since TRT is no longer valid in Nevada. So with that, he will now face the former UFC light heavyweight champion Lyoto The Dragon Machida, who has recently dropped down to middleweight, decimated Mark Munoz with that high kick, and fought a complete shutout against Gegard. The story of that fight is very simple. Mousai could not keep up with Machida's speed, and Machida beat him to the punch every single time. And took the fight by unanimous decision, baby. And I gotta say, he's looking awesome at 185. This is the weight class he should have been in, and it's gonna be one intense fight between him and Weidman this summer at UFC 175. Now the question is, heading into this fight, can Chris Weidman slay the Dragon and retain his championship and keep his undefeated streak intact? Or will we witness the reemergence of the Machida era, with Lyoto Machida doing what Anderson Silva couldn't do, and that is completely take Chris Weidman out of the game by knocking his ass out and handing him his very first loss in his career and become the new UFC middleweight champion? Now the answer to that question will be coming up next. Now when breaking down these two fighters, obviously, Chris Weidman takes the height. He's 6'2", Lyoto's 6'1", 1 inch difference there. He has a longer reach than Lyoto, 78 to Lyoto's 74 inch reach. And when it comes to cardio, Lyoto Machida can go 5 rounds, no problem. He did it against Shogun. He did it against Gegard Mousai. And the weight cut hasn't affected him in middleweight, so I think his cardio will be just fine. Chris Weidman, you know, he's trained for 5-round fights, but all the 5-round main events that he's gone through haven't really gone the distance. They've all ended in the second round, but he's good at pacing himself, and he does not really overexert himself. He should do fine in the cardio department, so I think both guys are ready to go in that respect. It comes down to striking. I give the advantage to Lyoto Machida. He's a Shotokan karate counter striker. He's very fast. He's very elusive. He's hard to get a hold of in order to figure out, because his rhythm changes are not your traditional Muay Thai or boxer type striker. And, you know, he's not going to play games with Weidman like Anderson Silva and leave himself wide open for Weidman to finish. He throws with purpose. You know, and he's in and out, side to side. You know, he's not going to, like, stay in the pocket with you and trade. And if you rush in foolishly on Lyoto Machida, you're going to get knocked out, because one mistake like that, and it's game, set, and match just like that. Just ask Ryan Bader. Power in his hands, he has powers in his kicks, and whether it's a wicked head kick or, you know, a karate blitz, a flurry of punches and kicks. Once he sees an opening, he's going to finish. Now, Chris Weidman is a good offensive and defensive striker. He's got power in his hands. He's a headhunter. And, you know, while he's a headhunter, he will also go to the body. You know, with that knee that he did to the body on Jesse Bongfield, and that front kick he did to Anderson Silva to the body as well in their second fight. He knows when to come in and when to come out. He doesn't, you know, get stupid and basically fall for the other person's game. He's never been outstruck in a mixed martial arts fight. He does mix it in there well with the kicks, because he will throw head kicks. He can block head kicks, as seen in the Mark Munoz fight and the Jesse Bongfield fight. In addition to that, he also can check kicks now as well and destroy your shins in the process with the destruction. And if you leave any opportunity for him to exploit, he will knock you out. And you got to watch out for that elbow and left hook, because those put people to sleep. Just ask Anderson Silva and Mark Munoz respect. When it comes down to the wrestling aspect of this fight, Chris Weidman is a Division I wrestler. He takes down everybody that he fights, whether that be with a double, single, or a belly-to-belly suplex. And he's very smooth with his transitions. You know, and he's got great top control, and he's very good at passing. He's got excellent ground and pound. Oh, and Weidman's never been taken down or been on his back in the UFC. Now, Lyoto Machida may not be a wrestler, but he's got excellent defensive wrestling, as well as excellent grappling skills to go along with it. Because he doesn't traditionally take people down with double legs or singles, but what he does do is he will get in trips on people when they're least expecting it, or he will take you down with that falling belly to belly he likes to do. I mean, a lot of people have tried to take him down and have failed. But that being said, he has been taken down by John Jones and Phil Davis. And as we all know, Chris Weidman is a much better wrestler than Phil Davis. So Chris will be able to get him to the ground, and Machida will be on his back in this fight, that's for sure. Now, when it comes down to it, to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aspect of this fight, both guys are high level. Lyoto is a black belt, Weidman is a brown belt. Both guys like to utilize chokes when they're submitting their opponents. But the difference is Chris has never been submitted in the UFC. Lyoto got choked the hell out by John Jones by a standing guillotine choke. And Chris can do a standing guillotine choke just as well as John Jones. Obviously, that was on full display when he choked out Bongfield. Don't get me wrong. Lyoto has got some pretty good, you know, submission defense. After all, he was able to get out of that triangle choke from Tito Ortiz. But I think Weidman just has more variety of ways to beat you with submissions, whether it's on the feet or whether it's on the ground. Because Weidman will also go for heel hooks too if necessary. And Weidman was able to take Andre Galval, one of the top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the world, to a points decision when he was only a purple belt, and he's only gotten better since then. Mission advantage, Weidman. Now, here's how I see the fight playing out game plan wise. For Chris Weidman, it's obvious. He's got to cut the ring off Lyoto Machida. He can't let Machida get his distance game going. Stay nice and tight on Lyoto and never let him breathe. Push him up against the cage in the clinch with dirty boxing. Throw in the body hooks. You know, really, you know, jack Lyoto's body up, and then also follow it up with elbows. He's got to slice that forehead up, because when Lyoto's forehead is cut open, he doesn't think straight. And he's got to go in deep for a double and take him down and immediately pass his guard and get on top of him and lay the ground and pound in. Transition to, to the side and go for his arm for a Kimura lock, or to the head for a guillotine choke or darce. But should Lyoto get up, stay on him. Go for that headlock. And knee him to the body, try to go for that guillotine choke and try to submit him up top. Either that or just use the Gegard roll and turn that damn thing into an anaconda choke and submit him from that perspective. When he's just standing up with Lyoto, he's going to go for the legs. He's going to kick those legs and stay on Lyoto, because that starts slowing Lyoto down. And then, the punches will come a lot freer when you're drawing your strike for his head. This time, Chris needs to also use his wrestling in reverse and catch Machida off guard with an uppercut. Telegraph his kicks. Discourage him from throwing any low kicks with a destruction. Wait for the opening to where he drops his hands, or he comes in charging at you, and catch him with an overhand right behind the ear, or just outwork him and smother him to a unanimous decision victory. For Lyoto Machida, what he has to do is maintain his 1-inch gap of distance between him and Weidman, defend his takedowns, sprawl and brawl, mix in the feints, frustrate him, be careful how he sets up his kicks. It needs to be thrown from the back of the leg if he's going for a low kick, and he has to set it up with strikes when he's going for his high kicks, and then throw a reply high kick so that Chris has time blocking. That way it's just about to get him off balance, and it just, give him more things to think about. Catch him off guard and trip him and take him down for the very first time in his career, and then quickly follow up with a diving punch and catch him square on the jaw. He's on his back, and Weidman in a very bad position. He's got to do what Anderson did, which is basically wrap his legs around Weidman's body in a body triangle and restrict his movement, and not let him rain down the full power of his punches on him. And strike him from underneath and look to score a reversal and try working his own submission attempt. Get him to react, catch him off guard, and hit him with something he doesn't see coming, like that crane kick or a high impact crescent kick. Win this fight via knockout. But if that's not an option, keep him at a distance, strike him from a distance, don't let him back you up, and just frustrate him and counter strike him to a unanimous decision. After analyzing everything, it's very clear that Lyoto Machida has the best shot out of anybody currently in the middleweight division at dethroning Chris Weidman. He has the style, he has a takedown defense to really give the champ some fits and put him in some trouble. Today, Chris is going to cut off all exits on Lyoto Machida, take him down, rough him up and cut him, break his will, and likely catch him with a standing guillotine choke and choke out his Brazilian Karate Kid ass unconscious. Official prediction: Chris Weidman retains the championship and defeats Lyoto Machida and gets the respect he deserves. And once this fight comes to a close and Chris is awarded his championship, I want all of you jabronis to get up off your feet, clap your hands, dance around, and give credit to where credit is due to the UFC middleweight champion, Chris Weidman. And next up for Chris Weidman will likely be Vitor Belfort, if he's able to find, an alternative to the TRT. And for Lyoto Machida, he'll be back and he'll rematch Chris Weidman for the Middleweight Championship, likely next year. Now, this ends today's fight prediction video. I'll see you guys for the next one.